Hey, what's up? Woo! Alright, so over the years I've made videos and I've written things and I've spoken about the way I grew up. The way that I grew up was so horrible in my mind back then. And I'm turning 41 in August, and the perspective of life for me has changed. And I'd like to kind of go over that a little bit and explain to you what I mean. So, at 41 years old, at least I'm going to be, I had to look back and think about how I want my story told, if anybody ever tells it. And if I were to go back and tell it the way that 30-something-year-old me told it, it would be this gloomy, huge case of overcoming every little obstacle. All I would do is complain and just bitch about everything, and that's not me. Not anymore. I know that I was born different. My face was wide open. I am missing half a finger, toes. My leg looks like, one of my legs looks like, somebody tied a string around it and it's stuck that way, tightly. And I know that I was stared at as a baby and as a kid. And I definitely know I was stared at as a teenager. But I remember, maybe not when, but I remember there was a point to where I just said, screw it. I am not just going to be stared at, I'm going to be heard too. Because I grew up, first thing that I remember was, the first compliment I remember getting was that I was polite. And that stuck with me. Polite went from polite, it went to sweet, to kind, and I loved those compliments. I loved those compliments because they complimented who I was as a person, and I decided that my life is going to be on that track, a good person. And I think I did a good job with that. I mean, there were, of course, moments where I wasn't such a good person, but it was never so bad that, it determined who I was in the eyes of other people unless they did not want to see it. I mean, I piss people off, but who doesn't? I am human. But it made me realize that when people look at you and they see who you are, they often judge just looking at you. They judge what they see before they even listen to a word that comes out of your mouth. And that's not how I wanted to be remembered, even growing up. I wanted to be known as a good, polite person. Now, I overdo it, which is why I'm single, I think. Because people think that it's fake, it's an act, which it's not. And I don't care if you think it is. It's just how it goes. But I grew up in a Bayou village where church was number one, school was number two. Now, the villagers that I grew up around, they were not educated people. They were not stupid, they just were not educated. They could survive. If a hurricane comes through and destroys everything, they could survive off the land. But if you need help with your algebra homework, they probably couldn't help you. And at first, I kind of looked down on them for that, but I realized that common sense and intelligence, as far as survival is concerned, can be more valuable than an actual education, because algebra is not going to help you out when you're hunting for food and that's all you have. But I learned to appreciate a lot of things because I grew up with no plumbing, no indoor plumbing. Like, we got our water from a tank, okay, that was filled up, and it was right next door, like right next to the house. Our pee and poo and toilet paper and all of that went underneath the house directly. We didn't have any type of pipes or anything like that. No telephone, so communication was yelling across the bayou. We didn't have any type of public transportation. We wanted to go somewhere, we had to get in a boat. Trick or treat, funerals, we had to take a boat to get to our cars, to get to the hospital. And our idea of fun wasn't going to the arcade, wasn't going to the mall. It was either football in somebody's yard, or it was playing Ninja Turtles with a stick. Or when we got our Nintendo, oh my God, that was the greatest moment of our lives. And then Super Nintendo, we got that. We had like 6 channels, cable. I didn't know cable was until I was like 15. And all of this was made possible because my dad busted his behind working. And that's really, he would work from early in the morning. He would come home at night and he'd be tired, but he'd still play with us. And my mom would work in the house, but she would still have time for us and she would still do things with us. And whenever we would go to town, which is what we called where all the businesses are, we would see, like, you guys would look at McDonald's and go, oh, it's McDonald's. No, we thought it was Christmas. That those golden arches were like, it was like, whoa, every time. And whenever we were able to stop, because mom and dad had extra money, it was like the greatest thing. And I think I learned how to appreciate not only just the big stuff, but the small stuff. First time I went to Piccadilly's was just a few years ago, and I was just blown away by it. I dated, like, seriously, I dated this girl whose mom looked at me and was like, dude, did you live your life under a rock? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. A lot of the things that people look at and go, man, I find wonder in it. And it's because I grew up in such, isolated, small circumstances that I learned this. And to be honest with you, I'm grateful for my scars because they taught me how to be a better person. I'm grateful for the living conditions that I had, the little small village that I had, the limitations on the things that I was able to do, because they taught me to appreciate every little thing. And yeah, I had some tragedies in my life. I had people pass away. I had my cousin drown in front of my house in 2001, and hurricanes came in and they destroyed places, but we always rebuilt. And right now I have 2 daughters. I'm all my siblings, all 3 of my siblings, my brother and 2 sisters are still here. They're still alive, and they've given me nieces and nephews. And one of my daughters is going to high school, starting high school. The other one is having a baby in August. And I did what my dad did with me. My dad is not my biological father, but he raised me like as if I was, because I think to him I am. So my oldest daughter, Lindsay, is the same way. I didn't raise her, like, I never met her face to face, but I pretty much helped raise her, and I taught her the values that I learned, and she considers me dad, I consider her daughter. So I'm gonna be a grandfather come August, and I'm happy as can be about this, because I learned that even though something is not mine by ownership, it can be mine here. Sentimentality, it could be mine here. And the great thing about it is that you can own and disown anything. So that means for me, what that meant for me was that I own my happiness. I own the things that I consider to have created this person that I am today. I own the good things that made me who I am, and I own the bad things that make me who I am. What I don't own are the bad things that make me want to not be the person that I am, the things that I consider that held me down. I don't own that. That's not a part of me. Those were just events in my life. And 30-year-old me would have never thought of it that way. I would have thought that these bad things that held me down and created this horrible me, this horrible attitude, were the things that defined me. And that's not the case. My intelligence does not define me. It simply helps me to articulate the things that define me. And what defines me are friends, family, loved ones, and myself, and my self-worth. So that's pretty much me. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watching these videos. This is one that I would love if you liked and replied to. So I love you guys. Have a good one, and deuces.